Sup, my fellas, don't forget to leave feedback, and enjoy the story. At this moment, a ghostly hand appears in front of our eyes, reaching for freedom. There is a boy who is clearly burdened with something. The hand, or rather the hands, keep touching him, asking him to save their world, save them all. For some reason, they call him a hero who must save their world. However, why does he have to become one at all? He asked his mother why he had to be a hero to all of them. How can he stop all this? Because it's really very hard for him. It was very strange for him. But at the same moment, the mother of our protagonist told us that he is the hope of this whole world. She tried to soothe him with her touch and told him that this was the only reason he had to become what they wanted him to be. Our hero thought that now his mother would calm him down, but she pushed him away, as if into the abyss, and said that her son was not so weak. It was necessary to die like a hero. At the same time, the body of our character immediately began to fall into a tornado, which remained only from ghostly hands. A certain person is lying on the floor, a drop fell on his face, a lot of drops began to fall on his face, so our protagonist woke up. He was clearly not in the best condition. In front of us was an awakened named Kim Sung-in. Of course, everyone knew that he should have just rested quietly, but he had definitely already overslept the moment when he wanted to get up. The man walked to the edge, or rather to the hole in the wall. He, on the ground, saw a crowd of monsters that clearly did not give him a single second to rest. There were definitely too many monsters running under the building at that moment. We also keep statistics that say that the mana coefficient was 97, but the rank itself reached 9. Many monsters noticed our enemy, so our hero had no choice but to simply break through them. He ran at them and began to cut up all the bodies, because he had the hero rank. He performed flips in the air, dodging punches and fangs, and continued to throw punches that crushed the ground beneath him. All the ground that was under his feet, all the monsters were damaged, until a voice was heard that said that finally a truly human hero was in front of him. A huge purple monster came out from behind one of the buildings. It felt the incredible life force from Kim Sung-yoon, so the monster confessed that its name was Fafnir. He recognized that our protagonist deserved to be a part of a creature like him. He said that he would quickly defeat the hero and immediately gain his strength. A kick followed, so our hero's body immediately bounced to the side. The system said that the level of fatigue had already reached 98%, which could definitely affect your well-being. Kim Sung-yoon only thought that this was probably the end, that there was nothing he could do about what fate had in store for him. Monsters, a countless army of monsters was already approaching the place where our poor character was lying. His entire body was trembling, many broken bones tormenting him. But even at that moment, remembering his mother's words, he realized that he couldn't protect anyone. Fafnir immediately realized his hand and wanted to finish off his opponent, and all that was left for our hero to do was look and understand that he was a simple non-entity who also could not protect anyone. It was pitch dark, but at one point, for some reason, the eyes immediately began to open. Many people were standing over the body and did not understand why their friend just fainted. Many thought that he died. But what exactly happened? Our hero immediately got up, which really scared everyone, because why does he even act like a ghost? But our character still didn't understand anything at all. Why does he breathe, see his hands, see a clear sky above him? Many people thought that he had gone mad, but Kim Sung-in only thought that a second ago he saw Fafnir kill him. Of course, at the same time, we realize that the guys are not his friends, they are people who have gathered to beat him up. The man immediately wanted to strike at the young hero, but his instincts made themselves felt, so the hand was immediately moved to the side. The guys couldn't understand what was going on, but it was too late because our protagonist took down one of them and threw it to the side. Everyone was shocked, but Kim Sung-in, without realizing it, began to apologize. Immediately, people started calling Kim Soo-hyun and saying that he was a complete freak for doing this, and then they said that they should just leave because the police were coming. They asked him not to come to school, but our main protagonist did not understand because he thought that his name was Kim Sung-in and not Kim Soo-hyun. Of course, our main character immediately got up and took the phone out of his pocket. He thought it was a very strange thing because wasn't it his phone? It looked like 20 years had passed. However, as soon as he looked at the phone screen, he noticed his new face. At the same time, we realized that in 2042, the world has come to an end. After the dungeons began to appear in different parts of the earth, monsters began to come out of the dungeons that had been cleared and began to invade the real world. This event was called the Flash, and it ruthlessly destroyed absolutely everything in this world. But on the other hand, there were people who were born with the power to fight this catastrophe. People all over the world began to call such people awakened, and Kim Sung-yoon was one of them. Even after all the humans died, he was the last one to stand and continue to fight the monsters. He became the very last representative of humanity, and the strongest awakened one. It was at this point that he was in the police station and talking to a police officer. The policeman could not understand, because what is the name of the person sitting in front of him? Our main protagonist said that his name was Kim Soo-hyun, so at the same time, the police officer asked for his date of birth, how old he was, but of course our character couldn't answer any questions. At the same time, turning his attention to the calendar, he noticed that the year was 2022, so if his memory serves him correctly, then most likely the time was rolled back by 20 years. The police officer was still peppering our protagonist with questions, so he had no choice but to say that he was 19 years old, because he actually looked 19 years old. He was definitely still in school. The policeman asked if the person in front of him knew his home address. Again, there was no response, and while the policeman was very angry, our main character thought only that he was absolutely sure that he had died from Fafnir. Had he been dreaming, or was it just Fafnir's magic? But then it became clear that the sensation of the monster's fist touching his body was real. He was actually in the past now, only in the body of another person. What does it even take to return to your old body? There are too many things that you can't and won't be able to figure out yet. Of course, at this point, when none of his questions were answered, the policeman said that there was no reason to talk to his interlocutor, so he only told him that his mother would come for him soon. He said that after he left this place, he shouldn't wander around, but just sit quietly at home. At that moment, he was warning him about some places, but then a certain woman's voice was heard shouting Kim Soo-hyun's name. She immediately ran up to her son. It was clear that the mother was worried. Her face was filled with fear and panic. But our protagonist could not understand what was happening, because really now in front of him is the mother of the owner of the body in which he is now located. At the same time, it was evening, and the sun was sinking below the horizon, and my mother was asking him if he had forgotten his home address. Of course, they had moved in recently, but she definitely couldn't think that it would be impossible to remember. Maybe it was all because of stress. But at the same time, she immediately laughed, because she would never have thought that her son would address her so formally. Our character immediately jumped up, realizing that in this new life, he was going to play the role of the old owner of the body, Kim Soo-hyun. But what was he supposed to say now, seeing his mother so depressed? Should he apologize? But the mother immediately reached out with a handkerchief and said that her son would only have to wipe his face a little. She said that she heard that the children who constantly bullied him in shock did it today. When will they stop doing all this at all? He continued to wipe his son's face and asked him to tell her about it next time. She held her son's hand, which made Kim Soo-hyun very confused. Of course, at that moment, my mother couldn't understand what was going on. Why was it so quiet outside? Our protagonist also noticed this, and it was at this moment that a certain wolf could be seen baring its teeth, while mother carelessly continued to walk forward. She was saying that we should keep going until our Kim Soo-hyun started looking back and noticed the wolf. The wolf immediately pounced on him and tore out a piece of his clothes. Many things fell out of the backpack. It was clear that it was a werewolf. It was this threat that the police had warned him about. He recalled that it was in 2022 that outbreaks began to occur much more often than before. The problem wasn't how to mate with werewolves, but how to find the right weapons. Of course, my mother was worried. She understood that there were monsters in front of them, but our character asked her to sit still, armed with an umbrella. The wolf immediately charged, but even so, the wolf was injured. Since there were two wolves, the second one attacked from the back. It was clear that the body in which our hero is located is incredibly weak to cope with such a monster. If only he were an awakened one. Another wolf was approaching, and our protagonist thought that everything would be over with him now, but at the same moment he noticed how his mother rammed one of the wolves with her body. The wolf fell to the ground, but mother was also wounded. Why did she do it in the first place? It was so dangerous and reckless that one couldn't even think of such an outcome. However, the only thing my mother said was that only her son should get out of here alive. These words could not give our character any peace. He could not find a word while the wolves were behind him. At the same time, a strange sinister aura began to emanate from Kim Soo-hyun, which made it clear to the werewolves that they probably just had to ask for their last wish. The wolves sensed something and at the same time just started running away. Our Kim Soo-hyun ran to catch up with them with his umbrella in hand, thinking that he could beat them, but he immediately fell down. Is he that weak? He immediately went to his mother and took her on his back, telling her that they were going home. But as soon as our character took it, he felt the pain in his back again. He realized that most likely his back pain was due to the same injury. But as soon as he thought even more, he realized that he didn't know where his home was. By that time, by the evening, he was still able to find this address because it was in his wallet. He put his mother down on the sofa. He was very out of breath. He was very pleased with himself. But at the same time he began to hear that his mother was saying that her son should run away, that she would stay with the wolves. This was all very annoying for our character, because why did she do this at all? How could she put herself in danger by trying to protect him? Then he looked down at his hands and began to wonder why his body was so weak in the first place. Why is it so weak that it can't fight off a few ordinary monsters? Of course, he was very angry that he had been reborn into something so pathetic. Was it only to repeat all the mistakes he had made in his previous life? However, he then decided to calm down. It was important to keep a cool head in times like this. But behind our hero's back, a strange glow immediately appeared. The system asked for some permission, and then the user's confirmation began. Once the user was confirmed, the hole in the wall said that the gate was open. Of course, it was very similar to a certain abyss. What is it anyway? If the abyss gate opened, then this body must definitely have the talents of an awakened one, which means that it can start its journey like in the old life. He immediately looked at his hands again and realized that in 2022, in his old life, he was also an ordinary person, so it only meant that it was now possible to enter the abyss much earlier than in his previous life. He realized that there was no reason to hesitate, so at the same time, he entered the Tower of Trials. The Tower of Trials is also known as the Abyss. As soon as someone can clear the first floor, they can get the right to become problematic. With each floor, your strength will only gradually increase, so that's why many people are going and want to go as high as possible. Even so, the tower has a system that is much more important than the floors. It was at this point that our protagonist was already going to his first test, realizing that the most important thing in the tower is the complexity, and that's what he was going to choose. The most important thing was the difficulty level system of each floor. Of course, levels are a system that exists in parallel with floors. Even though it's the same first floor, the higher the level, the stronger the enemies. And the stronger the enemies, the higher the reward. Of course, this meant that the risk was also higher, so in other words, the higher the risk, the greater the rewards. The tower began to transform a new area, like the Colosseum. A test of the 10th level was created, but our main character could not understand whether everything would be alright with him, because in the past he was able to master the 8th level at most. But if anything, he should at least try to change something, so that he doesn't have to build up that sad ending from the past. It was at this point that the system asked you to choose a weapon. So as soon as the weapon was chosen, our Kim Se-hyun knew that he should move forward while the crowd of monsters was coming at him. A few hours later, on the street, one of the humans was surrounded by werewolves. He was screaming for help, screaming for someone to save him. But it was at this moment that our main character appeared, who said that he had found the very creatures that attacked him in the morning. Our Kim Se-hyun immediately threw a few punches at him, and Hatem started laughing to finish them all off with an umbrella. Seconds later, one of the werewolves was defeated, and our character reminded us that he had warned everyone that he would not let anyone go just like that. The werewolf was scared, but our character asked not to worry because soon he will join him. At this point, we could see that the awakened Kim Se-hyun had cleared the first floor with a difficulty level of 10, gaining incredible strength in the process. At this moment, the TV broadcast that recently the number of gates has been increased. Compared to how many dungeons appeared for the first time in 2019, now they have become 3 times more. The sudden appearance of the dungeons had a huge impact, causing a lot of discussion. Of course, everyone had to understand that the challenge tower and dungeons were similar, but they had different shapes. On the phone, they began to study them. Of course, the Hangover, the Tower of Trials, and the system all appeared around the same time. No one knew what they were, and the whole world was interested in them. Attention and desire for the unknown began to grow day by day. As long as people found more and more ways to use the energy from the resources they found, the ethereal stones, the price of them just skyrocketed. The rewards found in dungeons are sluggish not only for everyday life, but also for the global economy. The born ones, by themselves, received a material reward from capturing the dungeon, instantly charmed by the fame and sense of superiority that followed them. However, what people didn't understand was that in some places, a phenomenon called Flash was discovered, where monsters could escape from Dungeon X, but still the dungeons were considered to have too positive an impact on society. The Flash, this is what shocked people in the future, because as the dungeons grew, more and more powerful monsters made their way into the real world. In the near 2029, the situation will accumulate to the limit. It is this catastrophe that will destroy the world that we all know. By then, many people were looking at each other's rank, meeting for the first time the name of Kim Se-hyun, who was ranked first in dungeon clearing. They thought he was a rising star, so who is Kim? As soon as they said that, our hero entered through the portal. He realized that it had been a long time since he had been in this place. Tower of Trials, a place often referred to as the Abyss. In our character's previous life, it was a vast world where countless awakened ones could gather to explore the floors. Each floor is a separate world with its own environment, climate, and even its own culture. However, they all have one thing in common: before you can go up to the next floor, you must pass a mock test. Right now, all the awakened ones are on the 2nd floor. Compared to other floors, it is very easy to find all kinds of resources, but in order to take advantage of all these amenities, you must collect the required number of achievement points on the 1st floor. As soon as these words were spoken, it was possible to see how Kim defeated another monster, completing the trial test. He couldn't believe that it was even possible to deal with level 10. It was clear that if it wasn't for the experience from a previous life, it would definitely be bad. Fortunately, the more our protagonist fights, the more feelings for him return from his previous life. At this rate, he will definitely be able to reach the end this time. As soon as all this was said, the system once again added up a huge amount of points, giving out the final rating as the first place. Of course, it was clear that this is only the 10th level, and the rewards are simply incredible, and all the characteristics are growing much faster than in the past. He can now safely move to the next floor with as many points as he currently has. Our main character was very happy with such a huge amount of points. Shouldn't he go shopping now? First of all, it was worth first going to the store that was right in front of him. As soon as he got there, he was met by an attractive elf who noticed that Kim had just come up to this floor, so she asked him to tell him everything he wanted, and if there was anything specific, the elf could advise. It was a dark elf, Valley. Only our protagonist understood that this merchant was the same as in the previous life, but now it won't work on him, so he immediately said that he needed a transformation skill, a jump skill. Valley couldn't believe that such a young man had been given so much advice, but would he have enough points for all of this? After all, these skills are worth a lot of achievement points. But our main character just smiled and immediately put 1150 points on the table. She couldn't believe it, because what had he done with those glasses anyway? Sure, Valley said that no one had ever scored 1000 points on the first floor before, but did they really make it to the second floor? Our Kim said that of course it was true, that he had just gone up there, he was just a regular customer. As soon as our character came out of the shop, he decided that he should look around a little. He opened the spatial bag and saw that he had bought a sword, a spear, and everything else vital, like he didn't even forget anything. It was at this moment that he took out 2 books and activated the analysis. He understood that each skill had the required level of mana required to master it. Skills. The skills that you master will become stronger as you increase your skill in using them, but some of them have levels that skill alone is not enough to achieve. These skills are called skills with a level of growth, and it is very difficult to get it. There is only one skill with a level of growth that can be purchased in the Towers of Challenges, and this is transfers. And something as important as the skills to use a mana catalyst in this way. It is this catalyst that will increase the level of mana and adjust it according to someone's abilities. It can also be purchased at the regular reward shop when someone's challenges are over, as an item that will increase your magic power to the desired level without going up in the tower or capturing dungeons. Our hero even thought that it was quite easy not to notice this, but still people just miss a lot of useful things. This item in his hands is also incredibly useful. Kim didn't know how useful it was to have memories from his past life, however, transformation and magic catalyst were pretty good decisions to begin with. But just as he was still pondering, he was approached by a person who wanted to talk. But who was it? Why couldn't you smell it for 3 seconds? The guy was standing still at that moment. He said that he didn't want to frighten, but our protagonist definitely recognized him. He remembered how he was standing on the mountain of corpses with a grin. It was Choi Han-jun. Choi Han-jun was the genius of the Abyss Awakens revenge in the past, but he was the main culprit in the death of a large guild in the near future. Right now, this man was standing in front of our hero, not understanding anything. Why was Kim even looking at him like that? But our protagonist said he was just a little surprised. Of course, he had met him in the past. He remembered that the person he knew had a more bloodthirsty aura. But what did he want to talk about anyway? Sure enough, at this point, Choi said that he was just following him from the moment he was in the store. It seemed like he was buying a lot of different items and thought that Kim had an eye for buying equipment. Our main character couldn't believe it. Was he really being followed? So at the same time, Choi started to draw out the topic. He has been waiting so long that our character is excited. But at the same time, Choi asked us to enter his room, which was very surprising. He was like the kindest dog, which put our main character in a not very comfortable position. By the time a new stage had already begun on the 10th floor, our Kim was able to escape with the treasure of the Charles clan. Evil members of the Charles clan will come for him to take their treasure back. This was the task, to escape as quickly as possible, and far too many lizards were on the way to the forest, so our main character had no choice but to perform his mission incredibly hidden. He understood that the Charles clan were monster hunters who were excellent at tracking their prey. Why does this mission have to be so difficult? As soon as our main protagonist looked at the pendant, it was written that this pendant has no effects, so it's probably just useless. I wonder what would be the best method to pass this test. The mission was to survive, so Kim immediately had an idea. At one point, he descended on a lizard that was alone and immediately turned it off. He realized that if he wanted to survive, it meant getting rid of everything in this forest. Right at this moment, a crowd of lizards were standing around our main character. They threw themselves at him, but Kim easily began to crush them with his newfound abilities. Since the lizardmen were now moving in groups, there was definitely a high probability that the battle would be prolonged. It would be much more profitable to come with a team or a group. But due to the fact that the difficulty will increase after level 5, it will be very difficult to invite people to join the team. Our Kim wanted to pass level 8, but as expected, it would be too difficult. That's what he talked to Choi about. He knew that level 8 was too low for his purpose and mission. As soon as he came out of his reverie, the boss of this floor popped up in front of his face. Our protagonist had no choice but to use the jump and clearly state that it would exterminate all the members of their order. A second later, the boss was defeated like an ordinary mob, and the system said that the reward of the second floor of the Tower of Trials is the unique ability of the treasure of the Charles clan. This pendant could now heal all damage and restore stats that affected the player. This skill can be used as many as 5 times. Of course, no one would ever have believed that the reward would be so unique. But as our character thought, the idea of destroying monsters rather than running away was a good idea. Because of this test, all stats grew several times faster than in the past, and with the transformation, he was able to understand how the boss would behave. The unique ability of the head of the Charles clan is Berserk, a skill that increased one's physical abilities in proportion to one's fatigue and strength reserve. This could definitely help in the future. Although it was tiring, but our hero was able to extract an incredible way out of this battle. If it can continue to grow at this rate, then it will definitely be able to do something in the future. However, as soon as he thought about it, the system alerted him to his fatigue again, so it was decided to think about it later. By the time he got out of the dungeon, he immediately returned to his house, where he saw that his mother had prepared an incredible amount of dishes. His mother said it was because her son saved her, but Kim himself said that his mother must be tired, so she should definitely go get some rest. But my mother said that she did not regret anything for her beloved son. Kim lowered his gaze back to the table and immediately began to eat his food. He was incredibly grateful for such a great chance. He knew that even though he couldn't become her real son, he would also thank her today by eating everything off the table, and he would definitely protect her in the future. At this moment, the news was once again breaking that the second floor of the tower had been passed by the points leader, Kim Soo-hyun. Everyone thought it was all a lie, everyone asked for proof. But Kim himself knew that things were bad for him, because now he would definitely have to hide. He leaned back to his keyboard as he continued to read the comments. Many even thought that every guild would want to get it, which would be quite problematic. At this point, in Seoul, one of the Aries Guild headquarters also started talking about Kim. There was also Choi, who also knew about the guy in first place. The guy was told that he woke up together with our protagonist at the same moment, but does he know anything about him? Choi thought for a moment, then said that he didn't seem to have met him before. So it was at this point that the man said it was worth postponing, and then asked what was going on with the attack on the 3rd floor. He knew that the 8th level was very difficult, so Kim Soo-hyun also appeared. Choi said at the same time that he was looking for people to go there with him, but because of the level of volunteers, it was very difficult to find them, so he would go there himself. The man smiled and said that if Tom didn't have enough people, he would find them for him, so there was no need to think about anything but climbing the tower and then something that Tom knew would happen. The man only asked to defeat Kim Soo-hyun. At that moment, Choi knew that it couldn't be that the guy on the bench was Kim, so even if it was him, he didn't know what to do with him. Choi thought it would just be better to focus on his own path. We are again transferred to our main character, who successfully cleared the 3rd floor of the Tower of Trials, the 4th, 5th, and so on. The results and final reports of his exams were also passed. His mother asked him to call as soon as he could, but Kim himself went where he wanted to go. He said that he would come back one day. By that time, 1 year had already passed. He was constantly worried after passing the final exams, but even so, he managed to protect the 9th floor. Then comes the 10th, which will definitely take a lot longer, and since he doesn't know how long it will take him to clean up, then a great option would be to go on vacation away from home. For the awakened who have challenged the tower, the 10th floor is a barrier to overcome, as the challenge difficulty increases every 10 floors. Increases so much that it is more difficult than 1/12 and 11th floor. For this reason, most players usually choose a level smaller than they usually pass, but if you lower the level in this way, then other floors will become more difficult, so to overcome this test, you need to definitely become stronger. It is at this point that the information is given that the green dungeon that will appear in Anyang in a year, a large-scale outbreak, the first time that humanity will be under threat, and after a while, an incident in Gyeonggi-do on New Year's Day. This is the future that is worth changing. By that time, the sun was shining and Kim decided that this time he would definitely protect everyone. The entrance to the 10th floor of the Tower of Trials, our protagonist was making his way to it and he was met by an old man. He said he wasn't trying to stop anyone, but would our character give him a coin before he went. It was the gatekeeper of the 10th floor. Most people, seeing this beggar, just pass by, but the role of this person is incredibly important. Our main character gave him as many as 5,000 points. The old man was very surprised, because for some reason many people just ignore him and leave, but he was generous. Our Kim immediately said that he was quite an important person, so he wasn't sorry. The old man immediately thanked him for such kind words, but does our main character need any information? Kim immediately asked for information about the 10th floor. The old man initially thought that this was all quite valuable information, but now he just can't refuse after receiving so many chokes. So at the same time, the old man asked to be careful with the village head. Kim wondered if that was all. Our peritonitis understood that if this was all, then so be it, because you cannot doubt the words of the gatekeeper. He immediately entered the portal, was asked to choose a difficulty, so our character immediately said that he chooses a difficulty of 10. At this moment, he was standing on a mountain looking at the city. The system said that it would be necessary to find the target of this trial and deal with it. It was impossible to die. At that moment, there was a tower of challenges in front of us. Some girl was picking berries. She thought that she was very lucky. Since she had so many berries, it wasn't even a big deal if he ate one. However, as soon as she pulled the berry into her mouth, she noticed that a scary creature was bumping into it, which opened its mouth. It was a huge lizard of incredibly huge size, so the girl had no choice but to start running. She was screaming, she was terrified, she couldn't say anything, she wasn't thinking that someone would come to her rescue. But just as she was starting to lose hope, Kim came running over and grabbed her and asked her to hold on as tight as possible. The lizard thought that it had already eaten the girl, but the lizard realized that it did not succeed because our main character walked through it with a blade. He was the one who was able to defeat her with a single punch. As soon as the girl and our protagonist landed, the girl was incredibly scared. She couldn't say a word, so our protagonist asked her if she was okay. But the girl immediately started twitching. Of course, after all this, our protagonist tried to take her to his parents, but the parents just closed the door in front of him, saying that he wanted to kidnap their child. However, as soon as they closed the door, the woman immediately began to say that even if he just saved the child, he had ulterior motives. It was pointless to try to hold a child hostage, and there was nothing to steal in this Derwin. He was being asked to get out of their sight as soon as possible. Kim didn't understand anything. He said that he was probably misunderstood and all that, but it was too late. Most likely he was actually considered a kidnapper. He didn't say anything like that. However, just at that moment, the girl was looking out the window at her rescuer. The system also said that it is worth saving this village, because it is that is in danger. The protagonist knew that in addition to this atmosphere, the locals were also hostile to him. This floor is clearly going to be different from the previous one, so it's likely that the 10th floor isn't really as simple as it sounds. But here's a mission that says save the village and survive, something out of the ordinary. He's sure there's something else behind it. Where else can I get information? But the worst part is that every person in the village is either watching him or hiding in terror. They imitate the behavior of real people, but in reality they are just copies based on the similarity of people. Our character just stood up in the middle of the street and started thinking that they were too human. It was like these people were just afraid of something, but what exactly was it? Like their world was about to end. For people who didn't feel it, it's not so easy to understand, but our protagonist understood everything they were up to. He sat down under a tree and began to realize that he simply had to meet someone who would have at least some information, so that there would be at least some progress. But he didn't even see a single ant, let alone humans. However, just as he was about to get upset, the girl he saved came around the corner. He greeted her, and the girl just came over and quickly gave some berries that were in her hand, and then went back behind the tree. She was silent for a moment, then thanked her savior. Kim smiled, then asked her if she could come over for a moment. At the same time, as soon as the girl approached our protagonist, he took out an incredible amount of food from his bag, which the girl would definitely like to eat. She thought she was incredibly lucky, but did they run out of food in the village? The girl immediately replied that everyone was afraid of each other. Everyone thinks only of themselves. Our hero suggested that the time is quite difficult for the residents, but the girl replied that they are still holding on because of the head of the village, because he is a hero for them. Our Kim asked what that meant, but the girl only replied that she repeated the words of her father, who said that the head works very hard to protect the village and that all of them should trust and help him. The girl, as soon as she told everything, asked why the man had come to their village at all. But our protagonist said that he was just wondering how the head is doing, that he can help him or deal with the with you in the same zeal. However, at the same time, the girl remembered that lizard and said that they can't attack the village, and it's all thanks to the head. Our main character immediately asked to tell us more about the whole situation, but at the same time an old man appeared who asked what kind of stranger had come to their village. The old man immediately said that he was the head of this village. All the advice from the old man at the entrance immediately popped up in Kim's head, but the old man continued to say that he was sorry. But at this point in their meeting, their village clearly needed food, so giving out due in this way might cause trouble for our protagonist. So the head has made it clear that our Kim will stop distributing food in this way. He would really appreciate it if they refrained from exceeding the limit. As soon as the chapter was finished, our protagonist asked if he was really the head. After all, this was the one he wanted to meet. Kim said that he was just a passerby who happened to come across the village, so if the head himself would allow it, he would like to stay for a couple of days. The approximate asked the head to listen, but he immediately apologized, but still said that the locals were afraid of wanderers. Kim could see that he was still being cautious about his leash, and then he turned to the child in general and asked if he hadn't told her not to take food without asking. The girl immediately began to apologize, fear appeared on her face, but Kim went up to her, put his hand on her head and asked her not to worry because he shared his food with her and also does not intend to harm the village. At the same time, Kim threw a spatial bag on the ground and the person was able to discover that it contained an incredible amount of food. Our protagonist said that if the head allows him to live in the village for a while, he will share it while he lives here. Kim said that he could get even more, but the head said that it would be enough and then asked to follow him, saying that he would leave our main character in one of the vacant houses. At the same time, as our character was passing behind the head, he saw a strange performance on the square, where most likely the whole city was going. Many people were praying at this moment, so it was probably some kind of religious ceremony. It is on the verge of the death of the world that people start to go crazy all in their own way. Some hide behind the face of faith, others deny reality and start doing terrible things, and naturally, in the end, there is nothing left. Of course, Kim thought that none of the people were throwing themselves at each other, but as soon as he looked at the scene, he noticed that a certain person with a dagger in his hand was saying that they were about to sacrifice a corrupted soul. As soon as the sentence was said, the rope was cut off with a dagger so that the person who was sitting on the stage immediately fell under it. This gave our main character a shock. He realized that all places of the same plan are always the same, no matter what happens there. While he was leaving, the people began to confer and say that they were obliged to do this, because if not for this, the spell of the gods would have passed. It was the spell of the gods that the village chief was able to obtain. They knew that they should sacrifice someone in 3 days, but at the same time, they immediately looked at the person behind them and realized that it would most likely be him. At that moment, the head's confidant reported to the old man and said that the ceremony was successful, but they had not yet found a new victim. The old man immediately asked about the wanderer who had come to their city, but the attendant said that he had not done anything like this yet, but did the old man really want to use him for a sacrifice? The old man didn't deny it, he just took out a certain potion and said that God had sent him for this, and the hypnotic potion that he had on the table would help them get rid of the wanderer. They all had to understand that one life was nothing compared to the safety of the village. Does the confidant want people from the village to die? At this point, it was said that the snake monster appeared under the village and it only eats people. Fortunately, the rest of the monsters this snake stops from invading the village, so that's why the village is safe. All the villagers are in a panic right now because they don't know when the monsters will attack them. And there's only one thing the old man can do as village chief, and that's the price of the villagers. So he doesn't regret anything right now, he just needed to do what he needed to do. 4 days later, people in Kapuganesh brought our main character to that wooden thing. They apologized to him, but said it was for the sake of the village. At the same time, the Vervica was cut off again, so that our Kim immediately began to fall down, where a huge snake was hiding, under which the eggs were located. By the time the old man himself entered the room, he realized that it had been a day since they had thrown him into the abyss, so it must have been clear that the snake had to be digested and soon become extinct. However, as soon as the old man entered the dungeon, he couldn't believe his eyes, because the snake was now cut into even pieces. Kim asked him what had brought him to him. The old man couldn't understand what that meant. Did the person in front of him kill the monster? However, at the same time, our hero said that the old man was so wonderful, as if he did not want this monster to die. The old man didn't understand anything. He immediately gritted his teeth and started shouting that it was all for the sake of the village, that he was acting in this way. However, as soon as that was said, our Kim asked, after all, wasn't it for his own personal gain too? The old man was shocked by this information, and then our character started talking about the snake behind him. He said that this snake spends most of its time eating and sleeping like a lazy. It nests and marks its territory until it leaves it, which is why weaker monsters would never dare to enter the territory. But it also means that to save the nest, you need to feed it. However, the main reason was that the person who feeds her will never become her prey. The old man was shocked. He could not believe a single word. But our hero was already walking towards him and started saying that most likely all his words were just assumptions. But it seems that knowing about these nuances, he pretended to be a hero, feeding the locals to this monster. But it was at this moment that his hypocrisy came to an end and the snake was defeated. At this moment, our main character appeared on the square with the snake's head and told the residents about the whole situation. They couldn't believe that the chief was lying to them. Of course, everyone was thinking that it was a religious ceremony, but they could not believe that they were losing their loved ones because of it. Many were dissatisfied, but also upset because they thought that now the monster will start attacking them. What is Kim going to do in turn? But at the same time, he said that he would just help all of them. The residents did not believe and did not understand anything, so our main character said that now he would show one thing. He also showed snake eggs at the same time. Many people were shocked, but our character asked to listen to it. Of course, he already told everyone that this predatory snake has a special feature that always leaves its breadwinner unharmed, so that with the help of this feature, you can raise baby snakes. Our protagonist asked us not to worry, they won't have to sacrifice people. Residents immediately calmed down, but what should they do? So Kim said they would feed the snakes to other monsters. However, who will catch them at all? Our hero said that at first he will help them all in this, but he is just a wanderer who will soon leave the village and everyone will have to take care of themselves. The villagers immediately started shouting and telling him to stop talking nonsense, because all they have is farming tools and he thinks they can catch monsters. But our protagonist asked them a question, is this their village? After all, if so, then most likely they will and should protect. But if they have any objections, they can just give up or start sacrificing the locals again. It is the unwillingness to protect yourself and have a constant dependence on others that gives rise to the so-called heroes. But a weak hero formed by someone else's will cannot be a hero. But were all his words too much just now? He thought that all was lost, but they immediately shouted that they would do it. There was even the same girl who said that no matter how dangerous everything will be, but she wants to teach how to protect her loved ones. Kim told her that she was doing a great job, so if everyone joined forces, they would definitely succeed. Of course, at this moment the girl was glowing, and our hero turned to everyone and said that even if the girl says that she will do it, then they are even more obliged. At this point, a chain reaction began. One by one they began to agree to the conditions, but the approximate of the last chapter said that while the wanderer is with them, they would all like to learn how to manage everything that will be needed in the future. At this point, the system announced that the villagers had gained willpower, so that the progress of the task increased to 60%, and our character could not understand where he should start. By then, we could have outshone the old man who was going down some stairs to the cave. He really didn't like being humiliated by the wanderer. The old man thought that he would destroy everyone now because there was another bird monster in front of him. By that time, many residents in Servani were already continuing to learn how to catch food and so on. They knew that if they put the baby monsters in the rain and started feeding them, they wouldn't be eaten. They thought that the wanderer was simply incredible at everything, because at this moment he was fighting a huge monster alone, continuing to deal fatal blows to all his enemies. Of course, it was already getting dark, so people from the village were calling for the wanderer to come back. Our hero said that as soon as he finishes with this creature that is under him, they will immediately return. Of course, the system kept repeating that the tower was already 90% completed, but it was not clear why the strip was exactly standing in one place. Of course, I wanted to finish everything as soon as possible and move on. But just as he thought about it, something very strange was released from the ground. The only capable monster that could attack their land was able to get out, the blue fire divine bird. Our character realized that most likely it was because of the old man. The old man believed that since the monster would destroy the village now, everyone would definitely think that he was a hero because he could control the monsters. He shouted to the bird that he had raised her, but the bird immediately took and used its fire on him, which turned the head's body into ashes. Only our protagonist could feel how strong the bird was. He decided to run after her because he understood that he was moving towards the eagerness he used to jump. He tried to get close to the bird, but it only dodged him. Why couldn't Kim have hit it? However, at the same time, he was sent flying further with an attack. Our character was very upset that he just managed to convince the villagers and this happened. Many people talked about it while our protagonist was in flight. But at the same moment, both of them turned around and noticed a huge monster. They were scared, shouting in fear. The bird was about to use its spell, but at the same time, Kim appeared, throwing his sword at it while covering its mouth. He realized that if he couldn't get it, he should just try to do something easier. It was at this point that the bird was tied up, and our main character stole its ability and was also able to defeat it with fire. There's nothing going on there, and Sehyun also said that he wants to take a vacation after the final exam, so he's out of town now. She's not worried, because she's sure he's fine, and it feels like he's suddenly grown up a little. Sometimes it seems that he has become a completely different person. We see a guy in a fight who fights a monster bird, and he does it. Of course, there is a skill limit that he can use through transformation, a level increased skill with which strength depends on the skill level. Transformation. It can copy the physical characteristics of a certain target. The number and difficulty level of the target will increase depending on the level of transformation. This level isn't enough to hurt this guy at all. He had an attack flying in. He was trying to hold back, but it was too hot. He doesn't want to die here. And he was also asked to save the village, which is in danger, and survive. The pendant will also be useful for him, except that he needs to protect it. The guy remembered it. He needs to focus. He can still fight. The guy took his pendant. It's a recovery element. All the injuries on his body were healed, and the number of remaining uses was 4 out of 5. The bird flew away, and the guy flew after it to attack, took out his sword and stuck it right in the back. He and the birds fell to the ground, she died, and the guy finally managed to defeat her. Then we see how someone screamed and the hero also screamed. He was in the hospital, injured. What a relief it was for the people nearby. They are glad that he finally woke up. The girl thought he was dead. She saw him burned alive in that fire. Yes, he lost consciousness, but what happened? He was asked to lie down and not move, because thanks to him everything is finished. It was an overgrown bird. It is dead. They have no more problems. They cut up the body of this bird, so now they can not worry about food for a while, and all thanks to the guy. Just like he said before, he couldn't believe it, because it was impossible to survive in that fire. He has a few bruises from the fall, but other than that, he didn't see any other more serious wounds. Everyone was looking at him with delight. Wasn't his act enough to call him a hero? He's just a lucky guy. He seems to be fine except for the pain in his muscles. A girl ran up to him and hugged him. He received 1,000 achievement points. Also the highest achievement in tower testing 10th floor was hell completed. Everything was done 100%. Now he has nothing more to worry about. Now the villagers can live in peace. Besides, it was going to be a little noisy. Everyone was extremely grateful. He was their savior. There were people standing around his bed. They will never forget that every villager is grateful to him for what he has done for them. He didn't believe that he had become a hero to them, but when it was time to leave, the teleport in the wall opened. A girl ran up to him. Why was he leaving? At this moment she scared him. Why did he leave without saying anything, and what is it behind him? Maybe he's leaving to save another village, and maybe he really should go anyway. He was confused because he wanted to leave quietly, but the girl was very grateful and handed him a certain bag. Wishing them luck, she said that no matter where or when he was, they would never forget him. This bag contained some fruit that she had picked, which he could eat whenever he wanted, and her name was Melly. She thanked her uncle again, and he said goodbye. Then we see a car driving down the road. A guy, June, is sitting in it. He was looking out of the window. A man was talking to him, but the guy didn't answer. Apparently, he was worried. He turned his attention to the man and said that not at all, of course. How could a guy like him, the best among the rookies, be worried? Since he had already reached the 15th floor, he was now at least B rank. He might even try to become the highest ranked player. It looks like they're talking about different rookies. This Kim Seo-hun's rank will be evaluated soon as well. Well, how does a man know about this? It's just intuition. After all, the guy recently cleared the 10th floor. Isn't now the time for an assessment? He's even informed about the floors he's protecting. This Kim Seo-hyuk, he thought. He also does everything to attract Jun Dong-young's attention and sympathizes with him. But the man just wants to say just in case. It doesn't matter if it's the tower or the exam hall. If he meets this guy there, then he has to bring him to their guild. In that case, if he enlists Kim Seo-hun, he can let the boy go. The guy in the car understands what will happen if this hero replaces him. He can be free. We can see the building. This is the Awakened Certification Commission. That same guy came there. He remembered the man telling him that when he was done, he would prepare everything for him to climb to the top of the abyss. He should speed up after he finishes the exam. If he comes up with anything else, let him remember that everyone will suffer because of this. The guy smiled back at him and agreed now that he was standing in front of this building. What an idiot he was. When he started going in, there was a hero standing behind him. Great, he came on time. It's been a long time since he confirmed his rank. The Awakened Certification Commission is a government-run commission where awakened people can find out their rank. Whether they are newbies or foreign awakened people, they have to mess with everyone. Many awakened ones often visit this place. To enter the dungeon, you need to get a rank, and you need to get into them to earn money. Even though he had come here just to enter the dungeon and not work, he still had to wait here. Those who have confirmed their rank become active awakened ones. If they possess both a good physique and unique skills, they will be recognized as an awakened one. Therefore, they often come here from the guild to recruit others as a promising person. The guys in front of him were talking about the Hawk's Eye. The man who was being escorted said that when everything was ready, they would tell him his name and tell him everything. There was a guy swearing behind the counter. He asked them to stop joking and just do their job normally. Let them take a look at him again, because he has the 3rd level of mana. It should get a C, so why is it only D ranked? The requirements for obtaining a rank suddenly changed, and those people couldn't do anything about it. He grabbed the back of his neck and started yelling at him even more. This is their problem, that the conditions have changed. Why did he decide everything himself and cut the man's rank? The income received from the dungeon depends on the rank, but you can't behave like this even if you are not satisfied with the received rank. There were scouts all over the place, and the fight was getting worse because the guy didn't agree with the verdict. Suddenly, that guy from the car came up to him, twisted him and knocked him to the floor. Are there still people who use such tricks? The hero did not understand what was going on, but he saw the guy's bracelet. It was an artifact. It temporarily increases magic power. This is a rare item that is not available in normal shops. He does not know where such a player got such a bracelet. Although his rank is small, it seems that he still has money. The man was still more angry, but the man wouldn't let go. Does he think there are stupid people working here who just look at abilities? If so, why wouldn't he take the test without this bracelet? The guy laughed. That's right, he wouldn't even get the lowest rank then. That's ridiculous. This guy was taken away by security. He can go on his own, let him go, he shouted. This kid isn't in the best of moods, so he's even a little excited, but still. Suddenly, someone greeted him from behind, and he turned around and saw the guy he needed to find. Hayek saw him for the first time on the second floor. Does he remember his acquaintance? This will be his first test of why he's so surprised, because the guy's too. Basically, the test for getting in a rank is taken a month after waking up. But the guy is a special case, so I would like to avoid a situation where everyone is looking at him. But he can't let his mother suffer anymore. The examiner was shocked, maybe because of his rank, although it's hard to say. As for the other guy, he would be able to get all the dungeon rewards if he passed the test. And he's on the 15th floor and still hasn't taken it. By the way, about this, he has personal circumstances. He's a freak, he thought. They don't know each other's names. He's Choi Hak-jun. But at that moment, he was called out and ran as fast as he could. The hero recalled the guild that he destroyed. It seems that at this time he contacted her. Watch the guy. Why did he do this? His rank is 4, load 44, rank assigned. How did he get such a high rank? He's still so young. Everyone else was indignant. The dark-haired guy congratulated him, but it didn't seem like he was too happy even though he was ranked like this. We've called the next one, Loner Kim Sahyuk, come over. They called the hero. Everyone was surprised at the expense of him. This is the guy who suddenly put the first with a bunch of points. His achievements from the 10th floor were incredible, discussed by everyone. Jun was excited because he also wanted to see this guy. A friend of his got up next to him and said that he would be back soon. The guy was shocked. This means that if he meets this guy in the tower or in the test hall, he needs to bring him to the guild. If he can do it, then he will be free. Is this person really this guy? As it was, he walked over to the counter and checked the rank. Later, he got out of this building. He screwed up very badly. A moment earlier, when he was standing there, he was asked to channel his mana into the meter, and he did so. But suddenly all that mana flew out. What's wrong with his mana? Still, we felt that something was wrong, so there's no need to worry. The hero received C rank, strength level 29. It was simply impossible, just that it was C rank. It must be at least a rank or higher. Everyone started talking about how these guys just had the same names, but it was a common name, and no one really believed it was him. Perhaps no one has felt it yet, but he is sure. Soon, the player will receive a record of awakenings and their results. This person is the same Kim Sahan. Suddenly the guy stopped, or he did. He doesn't know who's who. The meter showed that his rank wasn't that high, so the hero might be wrong. But he thinks that no one will be able to carefully control their rank and strength level. Even if this guy is a genius, only national level awakened ones can do it, not him. And the hero, when he walked, hoped that they all believed, even if only for a moment, but it seemed to him that he was losing control of mana. Fortunately, he was able to take control of it, otherwise things might have ended badly. It's probably because of the sudden increase in his ability level. Well, it's still normal, since his stats have increased significantly after clearing the 10th floor. In addition, the rewards were very good for the skill obtained after defeating the sacred bird, Divine Flame. It's a pretty strong growing skill, and it's especially effective against demon monsters, so it's very useful. Its stats have slightly increased, and it also likes the store the most. The items in the store are impressive because he cleared the 10th floor on the 10th level of difficulty. But the problem is that he bought an egg out of all these delicious items. Egg of an unidentified sacred creature. He ended up buying it because it's the only item he didn't know how to get, but he's confused by the fact that he doesn't know what's going to hatch out of it. However, there was one instance where a lucky awakened picked up an egg. He became a ranker with the power of the divine being from this egg. He's had it for a long time, and nothing seems to be happening. It can't be an empty egg. When the guy left him, someone shouted after him. It was his new friend. He was in the toilet, so he was late. He asked me how it went. The hero explained that everything is fine. He received a C rank. The guy hopes he doesn't mind asking something. Suddenly they were interrupted by the guy who was swearing at everyone inside. He must be one of those guys and trying to get revenge. The hero remembered the bracelet. Suddenly, a guy with red hair apologized to the hero, wanted to see how strong he was, and now he will look at it. But no one had time to do anything, when suddenly it was like a taser hit. It was a man. He was waiting for a guy. Why was he late? The entire man was waiting for him. He was looking with a murderous look, it was the guild head. The hero was looking at him with fear, it was the Ares guild head, Jun Dingyang. He walked up to the guy, don't call him that, fell to the floor, that guy, he was covered in blood and unconscious. He also told his charge to call him Hyung. The man was very angry, but wow, he made a new friend. This person was trying to explain himself, kid. He just met him in the training hall, and he wanted to offer him to join their guild if his rank was high enough. But the guy doesn't think he can. If he is interested in him, then there is something special about him. The man will check out the guy himself. The hero tried to stop the head, but he already approached the guy. Jun tried to point a finger at him to keep quiet and not say anything. But he introduced himself, his name was Kim Sahan. Behind him, John was shocked, but the man wasn't at all impressed, or rather, he was glad. Dai Pasati tried to dissuade the man. It was not the same player, he is C rank, this is definitely not the person they are looking for. The guy evaluated him, but the man told him to shut up, because he decides everything here. If the guy doesn't mind, then let him show him his awakened card. Indeed, C rank, the man has changed, because he is very similar to the guy they are looking for, their names are similar, so he got mixed up. Well, if the guy turned out to be him, the man would have called him over. At the head of the guild, like he didn't have time to call an ordinary player, he apologized for disturbing them. Well, if he's interested, then let him come to their guild for the test. Even if he was that rumored guy, he wouldn't have joined them for anything, the man was surprised. If he joined a guild where the leader didn't know the value of people's lives, what would happen to him? There was already one, such a viddle, that happens to those who challenge their guild members, right? Such people deserve to be punished. This player was low ranked, isn't it too much for self-defense? The man thought about it, it seems that they think differently with the player, there is an unspoken rule that no one can engage in a battle between awakened ones, even if one of them dies in the process. And the stronger the awakened one is, the higher the chance that he will get away with it. A guild that has such a strong head, a guild that won't get anything even if they start a massacre. Doesn't everyone really want to get into a guild like this? Of course, as the man said, they think differently. They don't have anything else to talk about, they leave with the guy. He apologized to the hero for this and went after the man. Well, while he was walking, the guy handed him a note. If suddenly he needs help, then let him call the hero at any time. He left with a man, Jun Dingyang, the head of the Middle Ares Guild and a rank awakened. The guy was sitting at his computer at home and studying the history of this man. He used to be a criminal and was known for throwing his fists into battle before becoming an awakened one. When he awoke, he was done with crime and started a guild. But services, interest-bearing loans, human and drug trafficking. It's all left over from his past life. Ares is a dirty guild, so people say. And the way he killed a man confirms it. They say a leopard won't change its spots. The guy is sure that the man is hiding something, so he thinks that the other guy, Jun, also has something against him. But nothing came to mind yet, so what exactly happened between Jun and the Ares Guild? It looks like he'll have to find out. He still has so much work to do, but it's snowing outside. When the end came, the world seemed to freeze, there was no snow or rain, the situation was getting worse and worse every day. At that time, he didn't know that peace and quiet was also a luxury. It's supposed to be New Year's Eve soon for sure. He almost forgot because of the meeting with this guy and the test. He has another reason to go to the tower. The reason he stopped climbing further wasn't because of his rank. It was because he needed to get an awakened certificate from the Awakened Commission in order to participate in the raids, which was why he had to take the test. He wouldn't have been in such a hurry to get there, but he couldn't wait any longer because he knows the incident will happen soon. But what if it doesn't work out, even if it fits? He didn't even think about it. After all, he's the only C-ranked one out there. According to the database, he doesn't even have any experience in dungeons. Will they choose him for this? Right after all, there was a set of people for a raid in the dungeon, the difficulty was orange, and the location of Gyeonggi to Gwangju. He didn't want to do this, but should he try to trick them? We see two people sitting in a cafe. On Minseok, C-rank hunter, level 12 dungeon clearing, Lienmi, C-rank man, level 8 dungeon clearing. And Kim Yoon, a C-rank healer, the 5th level of dungeon clearing. It seems like nothing special is good, but the girl thinks that they work well together. These guys are just mediocre singles. Well, that's rude, she's also one of the candidates. Does it matter to them who will be in the squad if there is one in the squad? We need to calm down now, Mr. B rank awakened. In front of her was a man named Li Zhuo. Even so, it wouldn't do, they needed at least one more participant, he explained to her. Then they will not receive less. Is the man sure of this? He is already a high-ranking person, what is he afraid of? But safety must come first. She knows how high the death statistics in the dungeons are right now. He stopped climbing the tower because he didn't want to waste his life. So what's the point if he dies in the 4th dungeon? It's just an orange dungeon, he doesn't have to worry, she said. Let him do what he wants, she has to obey the leader, so what can she do for him? She reached out to him. There's someone useful here, isn't there? Luckily they've just received an application. but this person's name is Kim Sahyun. The easiest way to show differences in dungeon difficulty is by using colors. The closer the color gets to purple, the harder it gets. The orange dungeon is the second easiest in the ranking. If there are C rank awakened ones in their squad, they won't be able to clear it out without any problems. But this orange dungeon is somewhat different from the others. On January 1st, 2024, he was in this dungeon, welcomed and long awaited. It seems to be the last one, but that's okay, they just came here themselves. He was greeted formally once again by a man named Lee Juho, the leader of this squad. He introduced the guy to the team. This is the same Kim Soyeon. Isn't he currently ranked first in the Challenge Tower ranking? The man explained that this is not so, these guys just have the same names. This guy has C rank, this is the first time he goes to the dungeon. Uran, and he also studied first. The guy from the team understood everything. But it's good that the hero faked his rank. If everyone believes it, he will be happy. It's better not to show his skill level. Right now she wanted to see Kim Sahyun, but it's just a match with the same name. The girl was disappointed. She walked over to them, wearing a bright red jacket and wondering if the guy was too small for that, or even if he would be of any use at all. He doesn't think it's necessary to hear this from a hunter of the same C rank as him. The girl was very angry about this. She was very angry because she didn't look alike just because of her rank. They need to calm down. They're all ready to move out. Are they really energetic enough to waste their energy before entering the dungeon? The girl asked them. They'll see how nice the guy inside the dungeon is. What's the typical response for a third-rate? This woman next to the red-haired Kim Burun. She is the leader's friend and helper. Later, another girl came up to him. She said that her name was Kim Yoon. She would be the healer in this squad. He also greeted her back. There's no need to worry too much about what just happened. She said, some of them like to show off to other awakened ones. But I'm sure the girl didn't mean to say what she said. If she didn't mean it, what else could it have been the guy was thinking? In any case, he asks you to take care of him, and everyone around you should take care of each other. But who is this person on the side? He asked the girl. She doesn't really know him. It seems that the leaders don't know who it is either. But what was the point of him telling them that he wouldn't show their face or name for personal reasons? But they've made sure of his rank, so she's confident that everything will be fine. The hero does not think so. Now they will enter the dungeon. There is a reason why he stopped climbing up the tower and came to the orange dungeon. The first is because everyone here is going to die soon. On January 1st, 2024, all squad members were killed in the dungeon. Strange occurrences that occurred in a dungeon with a not very high level. The reason why it attracted so much attention was the confirmed death of 5 people. But at the same time, it was revealed that there were 6 people in the squad, which meant that the real killer was among them. And now, because of the presence of the hero, there are 7 of them. But this only means that now the killer will have 1 more victim. Protects the squad members, he must find the culprit among them. Well, what should he do? He thought as the rules were explained to them. Suddenly the man broke off and asked if the guy understood everything. He replied that, of course, yes, they don't have to worry too much. After all, this is just an orange dungeon. There won't be any monsters here, and even they will be animal type like wolves. Suddenly turning around, he saw behind him a huge monster with 1 eye, which swung at them broken. It was a cyclops. Why were they in the orange dungeon now? There was an explosion. No one believed that it was an orange dungeon. The guys were thrown several meters away. Cyclops in the orange dungeon. Something strange is happening here. They only appear in yellow level and higher dungeons, which means a dungeon with a growing level. It's just like a transformation, a growing skill. There are also dungeons that gradually increase their level. So the reason for conquering this dungeon is because of an unexpected level up. Not at all. This reason doesn't explain much. Even if they are criminals, they can't change the level of the dungeon. If they just wanted to kill everyone, this situation is just the way to go. But who was this man guarding his charges among all the surprised faces? A man who was truly happy. The girl screamed and said that they should run because of this dungeon reward. What is more important than her life? How are they going to kill such a monster? She's leaving. If she leaves now, what will happen to the others then? Now is not the time to fight. They were attacked by a monster. They weren't exactly busy right now. The man was stopping the monster's strike. He wasn't lying about being a high-ranked player, however. He is not yet able to resist the Cyclops. The man was thrown into the walls. He was lying unconscious. You need to take control of the awakened B rank in 1 blow. The guys didn't know what to do, but suddenly everything lit up. What was it? It was our hero. He attacked with a monster. Suddenly a girl ran up to the leader to save him. Thank God the man didn't seem to be hurt, the guy thought, defending himself from the monster. He threw punches at him and flew back as he dodged that punch so easily. From the Cyclops attack, how long they will stand like this? Let them pull themselves together. Even if they want to run away, they can't just run away. But why there was no way out? The way was blocked, the hooded man explained to them. Starting from the yellow level, the entrance and exit work differently. As soon as they enter, they will not leave until they find a path. The guy is right. The man doesn't know why the dungeon level has changed. Now they will have to fight to escape from all these monsters. They can leave the Cyclops for a man, but they will have to fight the others to keep the monsters growing. We need to gather. There were about 30 monsters here. The guy hit them, with the exception of Cyclops. The rest of the monsters are still orange level, you can leave them on the rest. Of course, even in such numbers, he would deal with them in an instant with this skill. But now is not the time to focus on the main monster. Usually the Cyclops' weakness is his eye. But that's not the eye that's on his head. His real weakness, his hidden eye. The guy flew and landed on his hand. This eye, here. He hit Cyclops' hand. The reason he's gripping the club so tightly is because of the eye inside his palm. Cyclops not only attacks, but also protects his hand with a club. This monster was finished. The others are still fighting. When the guy was looking at them, the man shouted at him to be careful, because the monster was grabbing him with his hand. He didn't understand what was going on and how it was that he didn't die. It wasn't the same hand that held the weapon, it couldn't be his other hand. The monster slammed him in its fist, the man shouting how this guy, this arrogant kid, could have been killed. It was all hopeless, you just need to run away, but let them see. Suddenly the monster's hands trembled and a guy flew out like a bullet. It might have ended badly, but he managed to get out. It was a good thing that he had borrowed this guy's abilities beforehand, and he had survived with the transformation. The guy landed on the ground, and the monster's arm was injured. He thinks that raising the skill level was worth it. Patriarch Charles is a berserker stat, and also a sacred bird. Her stat is blue fire. Until now, he could only superficially copy his target's abilities. But right now, he can copy all of its power, much stronger than he thought. Maybe he should see how far he can go with this. When a man ran up behind him, the guy was already flying into the air with his power. He swept past the monsters in one blow and killed them all. And later he flew up to the Cyclops, but where is he looking? The guy hit him over the head. His speed was simply incredible, and his technique was also admired by the man. It can't be that these are C-rank abilities. But suddenly, he was also attacked by a monster. They must deal with it all together. It doesn't matter what happened now. Now a man must fulfill his duty as well as girls. He will take the front position, and let her remember to support Minseok and Unissi. You've heard it, haven't you? You've got to stand up straight. The hero noticed how they start working together. That's right, now it's time to end it all. He hit the Cyclops on his arm and all over his body. He died without a trace. They barely managed to deal with all the monsters. The girl thought she was going to die. What should they do now? Even though they've defeated these monsters, they still don't know where the exit is. If more of these monsters appeared in the future, nothing would change. Isn't it worth asking for support from your superiors? The man asked. To be honest, this is also his first time in such a situation, and he doesn't think that there are any recommendations for such situations. Now the guys are safe and can rest. The man asked if the hero was okay. He was not injured in any way. But he's still C-ranked. It was an emergency, and he went a little overboard. However, he feels like his whole body is shaking. They can ask the girl to treat him, and he will discuss with this woman what they should do next. A girl ran up to him and asked him if he was badly hurt, but she wasn't really casting healing magic right now. But in any case, he fought very well. Just think that he killed a Cyclops alone. Even a man of his rank can't handle it. He was just lucky, the guy explained. But why isn't he worried? The girl is referring to the difficulty of the dungeons. This is also what she means by these people. The guy is afraid to die and is not able to fight properly, while the girl continues to complain. And the hooded man they don't know anything about. And also 2 representatives in the Abyss network find conversations about them. They don't distribute dungeon rewards properly at all and come up with low-level excuses for their squad. Even if they somehow finish the chat trade, they won't be able to get the corresponding rewards. Even if it worked the most, so that's what's going on here. He told the girl not to worry. He understood everything that was going on right now. A man approached them and said that he would like to talk to the guy. They need to move away. The girl was excited, and the guy agreed. In fact, the hero himself would like to ask something. All the guys went through the cave. Fortunately, the girl no longer sees other monsters here. They had already dealt with all the monsters that were previously here. They'll be safe until the next zone. Well, how was the conversation between the man and this guy? The woman asked. How was that plan? The hero had a question he wanted to ask, but the plan was cancelled. He told the girl, recalling the conversation. She didn't understand why there seemed to be more to come. The guys came to a huge door. Very soon the real color will be known. The huge doors in front of them opened and they entered an empty hall. It was all gray, and it looked like they were in the middle of a dungeon. Perhaps there was a way out, for she had noticed some golden doors in the middle of the gloomy room. Wasn't this the way out? It looked like they would finally be able to get out of here. Well, if she just ran stupidly, the man was trying to stop her. As a scoreboard appeared in front of them, it was the dungeon system. It turned on. The system welcomed those who had come all the way here. The dungeon trial would start soon. It was the voice of the tower system. The exit right in front of them. What was it about? Starting from the yellow level, the raid does not end after killing monsters. Just like in tower trials, a raid can be completed when certain requirements are met. For example, you need to save the village and survive. The guys had to choose a way to pass. The first is to kill the monsters. The door behind them will summon them for 30 minutes. Second, the door opposite will open and they will need to run away from the monster for 30 minutes. The summoned monsters will chase them. We'll throw them out within 10 minutes. If they don't open the door themselves, the path will be chosen randomly. Why does this system do whatever it wants? The girl was indignant, so they won't get out until they've finished with one of the options. It looks like they should choose the second one. The difficulty is too high, they won't be able to fight them. Well, if the reward is better, if they fight before then, they did a great job. How can he say that? Boy, he's completely useless. They started cursing and were stopped by a girl with red hair. They should stop fighting. Do they have time for that? The man turned back, not meeting the boy's eyes. The girl asked him what to do in less than 10 minutes, and he was still thinking. The reason they were able to defeat the Cyclops and make it here is because of this guy. So it's worth asking him what kind of C rank will be the raid leader. Cool. The girl in the red jacket was indignant, but he fought and everyone saw his success. He thinks it's better to fight. What does he even think of himself after such monsters? The girl was dissatisfied. He wants to get the best rewards because they can either run or fight. At first glance, it seems that it will be easier to run, but if you think about it from the other side, it is possible that they will be chased by those very monsters that they will not defeat. Besides, they don't know that it might be more profitable to take up positions and fight here. If you think about it, this is probably the best option, the man thought. If no one objected, then they would agree on this. Everyone needed to get in line. The guys stood in a circle and defended each other's backs. They chose the first way to fight monsters, and in 30 seconds the battle began. The system wished the travelers good luck and the gate opened. All sorts of monsters came out and they started attacking people. Everyone had to be careful. Why are they so fast, these monsters? One of the monsters grabbed the man by the neck and twisted him. He couldn't even breathe, but the hero helped him with this monster lizard. It took only about a minute. The guys were fighting. Very soon, what will they do next? Show their real face or wait and see how everything will happen? While everyone was fighting, but suddenly they noticed the door. What was it? The healer girl was almost crying, and the guy in the hood was outside the door and he was stabbed with cues. No one understood what had just happened. They had to focus. The wave wasn't over yet. They had to keep fighting. But the first route was forcibly closed. They would start the second route in 10 minutes. They needed to pass the gate and reach the exit safely. But the guys didn't understand what was going on. They had less than 5 minutes left to finish the test. Who opened the gate? The girl was crying. The other was indignant. No one knew. This person just opened the door and ran. What a terrible person. Will they be able to defeat these monsters or not? That's just not possible, the man said. As they just heard, they are surely stronger than the ones they were fighting just now. And since they've already been in combat, they don't have enough health and mana to deal with the rest. And if they run, there will be traps. There's nothing to worry about. They should go, the guy said. Don't they see these corpses? How does he think? Where is he going now? It's just suicide. Indeed, they don't know anything about what the system said about the second route. This means that the summoned monsters will chase after them. It doesn't say that you need to avoid traps, but they can see the trap right there. The system isn't lying. Maybe they are only activated for people who have abandoned the chosen route. Everyone here was already going to the tower and exploring the dungeon, and they still don't know. Just thinking about it, they would still be dead in 3 minutes. Wouldn't it be better to try to do something before that? The man set everyone up and said that it was worth getting out. If someone has an objection, they can stay here. But he agrees with the hero. He thinks it's better this way. They can then accuse the man of not being worthy of being a squad leader, but for now they need to focus on how they can all survive and get out of here alive. The team didn't say anything at first. In response, the girl agreed it would be better if they went. Altogether they need to hurry. They don't have much time left. Well, if they go out, well, the door is close. The girl killer asked the guy and whether he goes with them at all. He said he would stay here, but why does he want to stay? Is he crazy? Does he want to fight monsters alone or something? He certainly wouldn't stay here alone. He had to take someone with him for the sake of them guys. Isn't that right? He will take the girl with him, but she objected and she wants to leave. Why should she stay here with him? While she was talking, the man had closed the door and she wouldn't be able to get out. The girl did not understand what her friend was doing. He would tell her everything a little later. She shouted after them that she didn't want to stay here and asked them to take her with them. But the man did not forget about them in the contract. He did not forget everything. She kept shouting after them, even through the closed door, and then she fell to her knees and began to cry. Why would the guy do this to her? They would both die if they stayed here. She wanted to live, and he also wants to live once. She wants to live. Maybe she will say it after she removes this dagger from her hands. She thinks that he didn't realize that she was one of those Scavengers Guild members. The guy cut open her t-shirt and saw the sign, the most terrible guild of criminals. Scavengers are a hotbed of all kinds of crime, a crazy group of killers. They will sow even more evil in the future. Now the name Scavengers is not particularly known in society, but in a couple of years they will become a group that threatens humanity at the level of the end of the world. Also, their company became the culprit of a terrorist attack. If the guy wants to save the world, he must get rid of them all as soon as possible. The girl was going to kill the entire group to get an achievement corresponding to her guild. She was smart, she was less sociable, and she was too worried about her life. She was constantly thinking about how to escape from the battlefield. The guy wanted to clear the dungeon, but his skills aren't enough to kill everyone. This mysterious person, because he hid his identity, he looked the most suspicious. For this reason, she chose him as her first victim. She deliberately told the guy a story about the leaders, which made them suspect them after this incident. That's how he found out. But the girl noticed it when he still killed Cyclops. He really pretends to be someone else. After all, he is the same Kim Soo-hyun from the ranking. Then what's the point of him dying in a matter of seconds? When he dies surrounded by monsters, she opens the door and escapes. The girl has the invisibility skill of her healer class. Lie. Her skills are designed to kill. She used her skill to hide from him and open the gate. The second test route opened. She wished him luck and disappeared. I wonder if this skill will be able to detect the smell of blood coming from her body. The girl noticed that her entire arm was covered in blood when he managed to do so. The monsters smelled this smell and attacked her. It remains to deal with them, with these huge cyclopes and other monsters. The guy dealt with all of them smartly. He apologized, but they won't leave here alive. He fended off one monster, then another, then a third, all with his skill. He was fighting monsters that were flying. As expected, there are a lot of them, no end in sight, and no end in sight. Well, maybe that's a good thing, because this is the right moment for the right technique. He will finish it all in one shot. Meanwhile, in the cave, the guys ran and ran away. You cannot stop, the monsters will immediately catch them. So this healer had killed this guy with a trap. How could the man even know about it? This is information that he received in advance. This information was told to him by the hero. He understood that the guy's rank was higher. In fact, he was talking to a girl. He is so strong that he was able to kill a Cyclops by himself. And the man thought that it was the guy from the rumors. If so, then he asks him to become the leader of the raid. Due to such a dangerous situation, he thinks that the guy is more suitable for this role than the man. He asked again about the guy's rank and the guy said that was how he was going to tell it. The man was right, he was the rumored guy. The man knew that he was deliberately hiding it. The guy has personal reasons, but the man seems to be someone who can be trusted, so he decided not to lie to him. What is he talking about? The guy refuses his request. He must be the leader of the raid. The guy was convinced of this after the man tried to assign it to them. When they were all in danger, he was able to control them, and he is willing to sacrifice himself for others. A man is a real leader. He is better suited to this role than the hero himself. So let him listen to the guy's request. He said he had something to tell him, right? In short, their raid group will open a murder case. The man was shocked at what the guy was talking about. He will briefly explain everything, but the man must promise that he will bring everyone out except him. He has to promise that the hero will stay behind because he came here to catch the criminal. The strongest rookie lost in the abyss, Kim Soo-hyun. Perhaps he thought that he could buy time with his strength if he stayed behind. Well, even if he can, what about the numerous monsters in the dungeon? The man thought as he ran, but he had to finish, even though he was worried, but he still couldn't do anything. In any case, it will just get in his way. But he can't do that. No matter how much he thinks about it, he just can't leave him and go. The man abruptly turned around and ran in the opposite direction. He apologized to the hero because he does not think that he can bring the others out. He will return to him and help. When the man opened the door and saw the dead monsters, but what happens? Everything was blue, and the hero was using divine flames. When the guy was running, he noticed a man in front of him and abruptly turned his power. He directed it at the monsters and defeated them. He swore at the man for coming back, and he told him to leave. But he couldn't leave one guy. But what about the girl? He took care of her, or rather, the monsters killed her. The man ran here like a madman, and the guy had already killed everyone, and he couldn't even do anything to help. But a man can help himself because everything is just beginning. A yellow ring opened up in front of them, a skeleton began to climb out of it, and the final boss finally appeared. The final boss was a skeleton with a cloak and a sword in its hands, as well as a yellow dot on its forehead. The man had never seen anything like this before. What the hell was this? As the hero said, this is the final boss of this dungeon. There are bosses that look like skeletons. The boss was indignant and asked him not to call it that rather rudely. It turns out that this skeleton also speaks, but he would have preferred to be addressed properly instead of being called a derogatory word like skeleton. That's right, let them call him the Dark Priest Lich. That's his real name. Before he could finish, he was interrupted by a guy. Even if they don't try to sound cool, He's only half a lich. This thing isn't a lich, in fact it has almost become a lich. The real lich is completely different in mana level and concentration. Well, the boss was indignant. Does the guy think that such a trivial taunt will work on a halfling? Underdeveloped, it is a mistake, a carbon copy, half-hearted. The man was shocked by the way the guy called this boss names. The skeleton gets angry, it will tear off all their limbs and feed them to the monsters. He flew into the air and summoned his army. They were the dead. He thinks it's only half personal, but he still has the ability to do necromancy. This is probably the reason why the dungeon turned yellow. Why is he teasing him? He shouldn't do it, the man told the guy, but the hero did it on purpose. This was the only way to provoke him to attack them. The guys stood in a stance with their swords. The hero held his weapon in a circle and something blue appeared around them, similar to a ring. The guy doesn't want to say this to the man, but at the moment, he's not strong enough to fight these monsters. It will be difficult for him to fight in parallel with the monsters and protect the man. The rebels will not be able to cross this circle. It should just distract the monsters without going beyond the circle. Well, as for the hero, his opponent is the mounting thing, or rather, the boss. The guy flew into the air with a jump and headed for the skeleton. The boss dodged the guy, a very fast person, but he still couldn't reach it. It was teleportation. Usually liches don't have the skills for physical combat. They use the undead to avoid physical attacks, all to hide their fatal weakness. Their weak point is the life crystal on their forehead, the mana crystal that serves as their lifeblood. Liches must keep their distance from the enemy to protect this crystal. Their teleportation skill has also been developed due to this feature. Either way, it also means that you only need to catch it to kill it. The guy tried to hit the monster, but it constantly dodged. It uses the cloak to create a blind spot for the hero. The guy fended off his attacks and used his own. He used a Divine Flame attack, but he wasn't sure if it hit. Divine Flame was a skill that could definitely deal critical damage. In any case, it was useless as long as he didn't hit the monster, the boss said. The hero thought he hit it, but it seems difficult to hit a moving opponent. Meanwhile, he was hanging in the wall with his weapon, so it's fun to watch him while he's hanging there and reasoning. The monster thinks it's good that it's thinking it through. He should look at his sword first. The boss's magic can destroy anything it touches, and it will immediately corrode the hero's sword. He has about 5 minutes before he loses his weapon. But it probably won't happen, the guy said, and it'll be over in 5 minutes. He drew his weapon and leaped straight at the monster. The guy landed with a huge crash, smoke rising. The man was very afraid for the hero, but he did not come here to be protected. But if he tries to do something, he will interfere with the hero. He couldn't figure out what to do. He would instantly die before he could do anything if he went out of his circle. However, sitting idly by wasn't an option for him. The man swung his weapon and struck at one monster, and then ran out of the circle altogether and at another. That's how this video ends. If you have sat through to the end, please don't forget to press the subscribe button and leave feedback. See you in the next video.